Hi, welcome to the constitutional law class over the winter term. This is a 6-week class, so it's pretty quick. So I wanted to provide you an overview of the course and give you a chance to think about what we're going to try to get accomplished during this time. A little bit about me. I've been teaching at Kingsborough since 2010, so I'll be going on my 15th year in March. I am also the director of the Center for Civic Engagement at Kingsborough, and I mostly focus on something called Rights Talk. I'm interested in how folks use the concept of rights in everyday rules, as well as how they think about formal law, and I examine the gap between those two things. If you're interested in that kind of work, let me know. I apply this to issues of housing injustice, immigration, climate change, racism, reproductive rights, and also educational equality. And so there's usually something that we're both interested in that we can apply in the classroom setting. If you need to email me, the best way is the Kingsborough email address, which is on the screen there. It's jason.leggett@kbcc.cuny.edu. What I generally expect from you is that you'll be respectful with me and also with your peers. This means, especially in the discussion board, there shouldn't be any unnecessary criticism. You don't need to criticize students' responses. I'm really looking for you to engage in a dialogue with them in the same way you would do in the classroom. So try to build off of their responses. This doesn't mean that you need to say, oh, great response, like that kind of superficial platitude thing. What I need you to do is really read carefully what they're saying, think about what they're saying, and apply course content to what they're saying. And I think this is my definition of respect, is showing that we're both engaged in the process and that we're interested in learning and that we're not just trying to get through this real quickly. You need to be an active participant, meaning that you'll engage at least once per week. I know a lot of students will end up trying to do this around their work schedule, but you should really try to engage at least 3 or 4 times during the week, if possible. You'll email me and let me know how things are going, so I know how to better support you. You'll contact me if there's something that's come up, and you won't just suffer in silence and kind of leave me in the dark or ghost me. And you'll try to regularly contribute. So you'll be trying to add things as you go along, so it's easier for me to see that you're learning and that you're growing. You'll be patient with the tech. Some of you have now used Brightspace before, but there's still some things that aren't great about it, and there's things that are different from Blackboard. And I don't use all of the features in Brightspace, so don't expect this to be like other classes. I'm using really minimally because I'm not really going to be using this much more than this in the future. That said, what you can expect from me is that it's okay if you make mistakes. I'm going to treat you with the same respect and dignity you treat me. Even if you say bad things about me on the internet, I'll still be nice to you. And just assume you don't know what you're talking about. I'm kidding. But no, I'll do what I can and try to match you where you are. I have a very clear, organized course outline. Everything's told to you ahead of time. You're not going to get any surprises. There's not different times where assignments are open and closed. Everything's kind of out in front. And really, you can work on your own pace as long as that's regular and consistent. There's a variety of assignments, so it's not just one big test or one assignment that's you're earning your grade. You're earning your grade through different assignments and different ways of making sense. I always accept student work, so I always accept extra credit. If you've got something, maybe you're working on a different class or something that you worked on last semester that you'd like to keep working on that's related, I'm happy to do that. Again, the key is communication, right? Just talk with me. We can set up a Zoom. We can go over all the details. I'll kind of interrupt you if I see that you're struggling or you've fallen behind. I'll try to see what's going on and give you feedback. And also, I'll just try to give you whatever you need, right? So if you need advice about classes, or you're thinking about a career, or maybe you're not so clear about what you want to do, I'm available to talk with you about that. And I just also ask that, I won't be perfect either. I'm actually moving on Monday, so I might be hard to get a hold of on Monday, and hopefully the internet and everything is set up. But, we all kind of have life and we have to live through it. So just try to be respectful and just try to provide that kind of environment for everybody in the class. There's really three basic things that you're going to do in this class. One is called annotated readings. The other is the discussion board, and you'll have a few Google Forms. I just provided a screenshot of the course shell, and the things that I want you to focus on are the folder that says annotated readings and assignments. That's in the table of contents. You also want to pay attention to the announcements that are on that homepage. And then we're only using the content tab and the discussions tab in our folder. So you don't really need to pay attention to the other folders. You can, of course, look at the grade book. It's a weird grade book, to be honest with you. So what you'll want to do is keep track of how many points you're totaling up. Don't just try to ignore the part where it's like giving you Fs or whatever because you've only got 10 out of 1,000 or whatever. It's a really strange system. And I haven't learned how to turn the features off yet, even though I've asked several people. And so if you're not using it the way it wants you to use it, then it gets kind of broken down. You should be able to keep track of your points. There's really not that many points. But if you're struggling, right, I'm able to help you. Don't worry about it. The points thing is not the point of this class. Although I know a lot of you focus on that. So I'm here to try to help you get through that. And hopefully maybe you care a little bit about that. So on that note, the right side is really how I'd prefer you think about learning and think about grading, and really how the college would prefer and how higher education professionals. But I was a working class student, and I cared a lot about points. To me, I think we got socialized into thinking about points like the same way we think about money. So it's like you go to work and you get paid per hour. You kind of think about class the same way, or at least I did, where it's like I get work done and I want credit for that work. And so it's like the same mentality. I get it. I wish it wasn't such an important thing, but I see how it is. There's going to be a lot more points possible than what you need. It'll cap off at 200 with the extra credit. But basically, if you want to get an A plus in this class, all you have to do is the work up to 100 points, and then you'll get your A plus. And then you kind of see the breakdown from there. If you do less than 57, then you'll get an F. If you aren't engaged in the course, you'll get a WU. I'll talk about that a little bit. And basically, the assignments are pretty straightforward. So you look at the syllabus, you annotate the syllabus, and then there's a Google form about the syllabus. You read the readings, you annotate the readings, and then there's an assignment that corresponds to one of the readings. And then you're doing the discussion board. So it's not really all that complicated. It's just kind of keeping track of everything. Now, what you should do and what you need to do in this class to kind of answer the discussion boards fully is you want to pick one of these learning outcomes below. So either you're going to focus on how judges interpret constitutional text, you're going to look at law as more than just procedural rules, you're going to be able to describe the tension between social control and rights, you'll identify how groups use rights consciousness to mobilize against injustice, you'll read the cases and apply a contextual framework focused on your lived experience, or you'll be able to describe how judges interpret constitutional text within controversies, including racism, criminal justice, intersectionality, and modern challenges of administration. Those are kind of what the cases are talking about. So again, you don't have to do all 6 of these. You just kind of focus on one of them and say, okay, here's what I really want to focus on this semester. And you're going to show me how you're learning this. This is also satisfying your civic engagement graduation requirement. And so the learning outcome I'm using is really measured mostly in the discussion board. So how are you able to interact with people who are different than you and apply different ways of thinking? So it's not just your way of thinking, but seeing that there's multiple ways of thinking in a pluralist democracy. It's kind of one of those most important things that is not really talked about a lot. And so we're going to talk about it in this class. And you're going to apply those values and principles and ethics of democracy, right? Of being free speech, allowing people to exercise their opinions, thinking beyond just yourself, understanding that we're all in this together. It doesn't matter if you are a Republican or a Democrat or nonpartisan or totally disinterested or an anarchist or a communist or you don't care. We're all here together, so we all have to learn how to get along and work together anyways. And so you're going to see what are the structural things that keep that from happening, what are the things that encourage that happening, and that's what we mean by democratic principles. Okay, so the annotated readings are pretty straightforward. Again, it can be a little confusing at first, but most students pick it up pretty quickly. Basically, what you're doing is you're putting a code, and the codes are here. So if you have a question, you put a Q. If you're surprised about something, you put an S. If something makes you angry, you put an A. If you really love it, you put an L, right? If it's interesting to you, you put an I. If it's confusing to you and you don't quite understand it, especially if the language is confusing, you put a C. And if you have something you want to add to it, you think this is relevant, you put an R. And that's for further research. Then you explain what's interesting, what's your question, what's your confusing, you explain your annotation. So basically you put the letter and then you put your comment. And you'll see the annotated readings here are listed in order. And so here's an example from last semester from 2 students. And so they were both surprised by different parts of this page. And so they put the code S, right? And then they explained why it was surprising to them. So it's really simple. You just click on whatever the text is that you're making the comment about, and then you click the button that says annotate. So when you select the text, it'll pop up and you've got 2 choices, annotate or highlight. You click annotate, you put the code, and you explain why. You can use the highlight function, but I don't see that. That just stays for you. So maybe you like to read it a few times. You go through and highlight some things, and then you go back and annotate them. But you're only going to get credit for the annotations, and you need to make sure that you're doing those. You need to do, each annotation or each reading is worth 10 points, and so you need to have 10 annotations. And just to warn you, you're not going to get full credit if you do all 10 annotations on the first page. You need to show me that you've read the entire reading, and so you want to spread out your annotations. Just to be doubly clear, if you do 6 annotations, you get 6 points, right? And that's how that works. Okay, and then you're going to have discussion boards. There's only 3 of them. There's going to be the introduction. This shows me basically like that you're able to do this and that you're sharing a little bit about yourself. And I really want this to be like we would be having a dialogue in class. And so you're reading carefully what other people are saying, and then you're adding to the conversation. So by the midway point, right, your goal is to add to the dialogue, and then you're going to kind of show also what you're learning from the class. So it's like this person learned this, you learned this, and so you're adding that together, and so we're all kind of learning more things and constructing new knowledge about the course that way. And then your final reflection is really going to be showing me your growth, and you're able to reflect and to really think about what you've learned. And then it's going to be kind of a little bit of a test to see if you're able to apply the learning outcomes that I provided in the previous slide. But I'm not going to grade you harshly there. I'm just letting you know this is what you're supposed to be able to do. You're now supposed to be able to apply the learning outcome in the final reflection and show us to support your reasoning. Just so you're aware, I want you to know now that if it's always really super obvious when you copy and paste or you use AI. I've been doing this a long time. I'm not against AI, and I'll talk to you a little bit about that in a couple slides. But this is not the place to do it. These are supposed to be your thoughts. They're individualistic, very human created, and they're supposed to be engaging with the other people in the class. So you're not going to get full credit for answers that are either obviously AI and internet based, or they're just totally so far removed from everybody else's comments and what I'm asking you to do. I just can't give you credit for that because it means you're not really following directions. Some students struggle with that. They don't follow the instructions, and then they're really upset that they didn't get the grade that I guess they feel they're entitled to. But let me warn you now, this is not like other classes. So you really actually have to follow my instructions to get a good grade. That said, most students, the overwhelming majority of students, like 85% of the students, follow the instructions and get A's. So if you're not one of those students who gets A's and you've been in one of my classes before, it's because you aren't following instructions. So this would be your chance to follow instructions and get an A. This is always surprising to students, so let me just highlight it again. I accept late work within reason. This is tough in this class because if you get late, it's hard to catch up, but I still want you to be able to engage and participate in the class. And so if you're communicating with me, then there's no reason why I won't accept your work. If you're not communicating with me and you just show up in the last week of class and say, oh, can I get the classwork done? I'm going to say, go ahead and try, but it's probably not going to happen in my experience. But I'll do what I can to try to help you. Again, the coursework doesn't close at a specific time, and so you've got time. If you get behind, you can catch up over a weekend, or things like that. There are a few exceptions to that. If I do like a quiz, like if I see that you guys need a quiz and I do a quiz, that won't be open because I usually give the answers, and so it wouldn't make sense to keep it open. But most of the things are going to be open. There are 2 rules that I have to follow through the college and through CUNY. The first is that I think it's the first 10 days. Sometimes it changes, but it's usually the first 10 days. If you haven't done anything, if you haven't done the introduction discussion board post, if you haven't emailed me, let me know what's going on, I have to drop you. That's the rule, and they check that very rigorously. The second one is that if you're not engaged in the course, so if you're not doing the weekly work, I have to give you a WU. And that's just kind of how these are the rules that I have to follow. Again, if you email me and we can talk about it, then I can work around these rules. But if I don't hear anything from you, I have to follow these rules. So I talked a little bit about this. There's a great book. You can look up a YouTube video. I use AI. If your teachers are saying they're not using AI, I think that's kind of crazy. But there's a way to use AI that's super productive and helpful as a learner and as a teacher. But then just like asking a question and getting an answer and copying it, I just telling you, like, it might work in other classes. I'm not, if it's working for you in other classes, do whatever you want. But 2 things to think about is it's technically cheating, and you can technically get an F in the class, and then you could be banned from CUNY. The second thing is, in my experience, the answers aren't usually correct because you're not asking the right questions. And so, especially in a class like this, where I'm asking you to do critical thinking and to engage with your classmates and to apply the readings, that it's not impossible to do with AI, but it's very difficult to do with AI. If you're using AI in a super cool way, again, let me know. Let's talk about it. Let's share some of those ideas with the class, because I'm not against using AI. I just want to make sure that you're learning and that you're using AI in a way that's not going to keep you from getting a job in the future, but that actually is useful to you. So something to think about. And of course, it's your responsibility to know what the latest plagiarism rules are and what you're supposed to be able to do. Sorry about these red arrows. They kind of got a little bit off, but so basically I just wanted to provide like the course overview. This is in the syllabus, but I just wanted to give you an overview here. So basically you're going to look at the syllabus, you're going to annotate the syllabus, and then you're going to tell us a little bit about yourself. You're going to pick a Supreme Court case you find interesting. So you probably already know one. If you don't, then go ahead and do a Google search. Look for some Supreme Court cases and tell us. And again, I'm talking about the United States Supreme Court, not the New York Supreme Court. And so tell us what you think interesting about it. It could also be the highest court. So it could be the state court. So it could be the Court of Appeals in New York, or Supreme Courts in like Texas or places like that. If you've seen something in the news and you think it's really interesting or you're concerned about it, you can do that as well. But I prefer that you use the United States Supreme Court. You want to tell us why you find it interesting, and then you want to pose a question as if like you were doing a quiz about it that you want other students to answer, and then students are going to answer one of those questions, right? And so that's how you get full credit in the discussion board. If you are interested in doing a extra credit paper, this is for students who are interested in like writing and you want to practice your writing and you're interested in doing research and writing, especially if you're going to be going to John Jay. This is something you want to practice before you get there. And so I've got an assignment that we can do that's going to basically, you're going to be looking at 2 different countries. It can be any 2 countries. I just assume most of you will pick the United States and some other country, but it doesn't have to be the United States. You could compare 2 different countries. And the only kind of rule here is you're looking at search and seizure. So how does like China have search and seizure versus like England or the United States versus Brazil, right? We're just comparing those. Or if you have another criminal law topic like sentencing, the death penalty, policing, right? We could do that too, but we'll have to talk over Zoom. And you're writing a 5 to 7 page essay, double spaced, 12 font, Times New Roman. And the only real rule is you're going to be using 3 JSTOR articles. So if you know how to do that already, great. If not, right, you can talk to me. I've got some videos as well that I can share with you. And that's up to 40 points. So that's a big chunk of points. But I think it's an interesting paper. It's a fair amount of work, and you're using academic sources. And so I want to reward you for that work. Then this is, so you got to let me know if you want to do that, because you only really have enough time to get that done. It usually does take about 6 weeks to write a paper, and to research it. And so week 2, then you'll be annotating the readings. These will be about various injustices in the Supreme Court cases. Week 3, you'll be annotating readings that are about criminal justice cases. Week 4, you're going to be looking at this concept of sovereignty, and then there's going to be a Google form about it. And then the discussion board is kind of checking in to see where we're at, and you'll answer another student's question. Week 5, you're going to be annotating the reading about a theory called constitutionalism, and you'll kind of see how students at Kingsborough have typically thought about it how it applies to the issue of abortion and reproductive rights. And then I'm giving you a week on the week of February 10th to catch up. And you could also do extra credit here where you write your own narrative about constitutionalism. And I give you the instructions here. It's only going to be 4 pages or less. And then week 7 is like basically leading up to the last week. And so you're going to have one more reading. And the discussion board is going to be basically kind of like applying everything we've done up to this point. And you're going to pick one of these categories, and then you're going to show us your reasoning. At that point, your essay, your extra credit essay would be due that week. And then any late work that you'd be trying to get done would have to be done by the 24th in order for you to get a grade. So that's all I have. If you have any questions, concerns, or comments, either email me, or in the syllabus review assignment, the Google form, there's a place where I ask you if you need me to email you. You should tell me why you need me to email you, even though I'll email you if you say you need me to. And you can put any questions or concerns there as well. Okay, so good luck, and let me know if you need any help.